Thank you for joining us for another episode of Film Club. I'm one of your hosts, Andy Harrison, and with me, as always, it's Andy Donaldson.
Hello.
Every week in Film Club, we invite you along to watch a film with us, and this week we're taking a look at The Rider.
Chloé Zhao in a second feature film. Brady Blackburn, who is actually Brady Jandro, and he is a rider suffering a recent injury on a horse, and he's hurt his head. It tells us his story moving on from that injury and getting back to his dreams and what he wants to do. I want to tell you a little story about myself watching this film. So I was going through it and I was thinking, all right, it's a nice story, lovely cinematography, lovely feel, lovely sound to the film, the music and everything. And I was going, okay, but I feel like something's missing, something I don't know about. So partway through this film, I was thinking, this is Chloe Zhao in Nomadland. I was thinking, I wonder if that thing that's missing is the use of actors, the use of real people. Right? So that's when I came to the cast, and it said, Brady Blackburn is played by Brady Jandro. Wayne Blackburn, his dad, played by Tim Jandro. Lily Blackburn is Lily Jandro. You've got Lane Scott, and I went, holy shit. So these people that I've been thinking, like solid performances, good actors, are real people. And that's pretty much their real lives. The powerhouse that is Chloé Zhao, like I didn't even know her name this time last year. And now I've seen 2 films, no, 3 films. Want to watch the 4th one, which is a debut. The way she moves the camera, or the way, not she moves the camera, Joshua James Richards, a partner, the cinematographer, moves the camera. The way that they kind of convey the emotions, and you do it in such a way that it tells a story, but it's a story for fucking real life. Yeah. How does she do it?
And this is like Chloé Zhao's sophomore film as well. So this is only the second film she ever made. And The Rider is like, it's steeped in understanding of Westerns, which apparently she wasn't even a big fan of before watching this. She just sort of had seen a couple of Westerns and really understood more about the story she wanted to tell and was more interested in the characters. And what that allows, I think, is that it frees up the whole, like, the trappings of the genre. There's no, like, trying to be a Western here. It's just about somebody who lives in, like, a contemporary Western setting. It's about somebody who is literally a new age cowboy. Like, I love the fact that he is equal parts, like, young adult and cowboy. He's got that sort of stoic sort of hero essence about him, but he's still going to go out with like his mates and sort of like sit down by a fire and do daft stuff and just talk about the stories. And actually, that, speaking of that particular scene where they're down by the fire and they're recounting some of the stories and injuries they've had, that reminded me a lot of some of those interviews in Nomadland.
Yeah,
because again,
100%.
Clearly those kids they're talking to Chloé Zhao probably behind the camera, or they're talking to Brady Jandro. They're not talking to the fictionalized version of them. They're literally just sitting down having a conversation about the stuff that's happened to them. All the stuff with Lane Scott. In a similar sense, going into this, like, I also didn't know that if this was going to be Chloé Zhao's, I guess the precursor to Nomadland. Like, I didn't know she was using non-actors and sort of letting them channel their own stories through. And there was that moment at the fire where I started to twig that, like, maybe actually this is these are real people. And then the clinch for me, the thing that told me that actually this is all real stories, is when you see Lane Scott. Because Lane Scott, like, one, it's a heart-wrenching condition that he's in, but then also when Brady is showing him all that material of him on YouTube being healthy and fit, and the physical difference between the two of them is something that is immensely difficult to fake, and it adds to such a level of authenticity, which leads to ultimately more sort of like hardship, unfortunately, for the guys that have gone through it. I think it's a really impressive film.
We talk about chemistry quite often. This whole film totally conveys. You're talking about those moments with Brady and Lane Scott, Brady with his sister, for example. Even the moments between Brady and his dad, their hardships, which could be arguably fictionalized, and I'll go into that in a second. The chemistry is there because it's the chemistry they lived all their life. You're talking there about the Lane Scott moments. Look at the end, or when he's on a horse and he's riding the horse, and the emotion between them two, and that ounce of chemistry. They're almost like they know each other's next movement. Let's say what they've managed to do, and I still perplexed at how they managed to do it. What they managed to do is brilliant.
So weirdly, Chloe Zhao actually said that she found it easier to get people to open up and to get people talking when they knew they were actually working in a fictional film rather than a documentary. She found that actually people were more willing to like tell their real stories when it could maybe be interpreted as fiction, and found that actually, making a documentary might have been more challenging.
That's really interesting. Because for those that don't know, Chloé Zhao actually met Brady and his family. She was working on the set of her debut film, Songs My Brother Taught Me. And I think some of it was filmed at his relative's house, his uncle's house, ranch, I should say. And, they were talking about the story and they became like kind of friends acquainted. And it was not long after Brady's injury that Chloé Zhao got in contact, how you are and everything. They clicked on and realised what they wanted to do with this kind of like Western film. I'd mentioned before about a couple of fictionalized pieces. I will just put it out there now that the story of the mother not being present is fictional. She fortunately is in life, similar to how Brady's having to work in the shop to make ends meet. That isn't the case. That's fictionalized just for the story of the picture. And there's a really cool moment when he's in the store and he's got a fan there and he's like, oh, can you sign this and everything? He's talking to the kid's father about how everything is. And this film, being Chloé Zhao again, just absolutely instills emotion, which does kind of bring me on to some of the best scenes of the film, which is his connection and his chemistry to not individuals, not humans, sorry, but horses. That horse, I can't remember the name of it, begins with A.
It's Apollo.
Apollo, thank you, Apollo, yeah. And the way he's looking at the horse, the way he's like riding. You take away the part where he's whipping. I'm not into that, but I understand that in his culture and the cowboy culture that is how they do it. But the emotion between them and the horses and the way he's talking to them, and the other one as well. I think it's the white horse as well, where he's going a bit out of hand, and then it brings us to that heart-wrenching end scene, which thankfully is off camera because I don't think I could have even dealt with that. It helps that Brady, thankfully, is in that industry and he has these moments all the time with his animals. And I think that was the pinnacle for me of this film.
It's a great example of like you can't make an actor do that sort of stuff. The way that like Brady moves with those horses and some of the scenes, especially where there's such confidence when he's in the pen with them, some of the maneuvers that he's pulling off and some of the training techniques that he's employing, you can't do that unless you actually are willing to like send an actor to really learn that stuff. And even then, you're still going to be working with someone who is essentially, a novice versus what Chloé Zhao gets here with Brady Jandreau is she gets someone who's an expert in that field. She gets somebody who is willing to confidently ride horses. She's getting someone who's willingly confident to go to a rodeo. She's willingly confident to go and get right up and close with an animal that can be dangerous and ultimately for him was dangerous. And she's willing to, she's able to capture all that stuff on film, and it comes across so fundamentally authentic. Even in like those are moments that don't need to feel authentic. The moments that you were talking about, the sort of the emotional beats, are the ones that need to feel authentic. But just allowing somebody to really represent themselves on screen and just show off a talent, show off a skill set, show off a lifestyle, show off an enriched sort of human that is three-dimensional with lots of abilities and then skill sets and someone who has a history with these animals. Like you don't get that through just acting. You get it through real people.
And it's two films in that I've seen from her, and it seems like this is Chloé Zhao's forte, let's say, her speciality, just getting people to be themselves and giving them a presence on screen, and one that we not necessarily can relate to in person, but emotionally relate to. Personally, I find it mesmerizing. I really do, and I'm taken aback by what I saw. Just like I was in Nomadland.
Yeah, it's astounding. It's easily, I think, one of the best neo-westerns to have been made over the last, 10, 20 years. I think it's really, really good.
I want to see more of them.
Yeah, I agree, and I actually think it's quite a strange thing for her to have taken on the Eternals. I kind of hope she gets back to this type of filmmaking quite soon.
That's exactly what I thought upon watching this and realising what she's doing. I think that's a 180 that she's done doing Eternals. But, I'm yet to see that.
Yeah. So there is The Rider. You can let us know in the comments below what you thought of The Rider. But Andy and I are going to be back once again next week, where it's time to celebrate Christmas a little bit. We're taking a look at Tangerine.
Cheers very much, guys. See you next week.